Hello and welcome back for another historic video. Today we're going to be taking a look at this Kona deck. Kona is a 4 mana 4/3 legendary creature with survival, meaning that if at the beginning of our second main phase it is tapped, then we get to put any permanent card from our hand onto the battlefield. This is a great way to cheat into play some expensive spells and combo off to win the game. Notably, we are also playing a handful of cards that allow us to station Kona, essentially tapping it on the turn it enters the battlefield. That way we can try and protect it from sorcery speed removal and also combo off a turn sooner. In order to facilitate this combo, we're playing a handful of mana dorks. At 1 mana, we have Avakin's Pilgrim, which lets us tap to add a white. We also have Delighted Halfling, which lets us tap to add a generic mana, or we can tap to add a mana of any color, but that mana can only be spent to cast legendary creatures such as Kona. It also means that the legendary spell can't be countered, so a bit of protection against control decks. And then we're playing 4 copies of the Noble Hierarch as well, which taps to add either green, white, or blue. The Hierarch also has Exalted, which means that whenever a creature attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each instance of Exalted amongst permanents we control. So if we have multiple Hierarchs, this ability stacks. At 2 mana, we're playing the Badgermole Cub, which is a 2/2 creature, and when it enters the battlefield, we get to Earthbend 1. This means the target land we control becomes a 0/0 creature with haste, and we get to put a 1/1 counter on it, and then when it dies or is exiled, it returns back to the battlefield tapped. So essentially the land becomes immune to removal with a form of pseudo persist. The second ability of the Badgermole Cub is that whenever we tap a creature for mana, we get to add an additional green mana. So with all our mana dorks and our earthbended lands, this is a great way to ramp out some cards early in the game. Notably, if our opponent does not have removal for the Badgermole Cub and we have a number of mana dorks, we might even be able to hardcast some of our more expensive spells. Then at 3 mana, we have the Sarima. This is a legendary spacecraft, and when it enters the battlefield, we get to search our library for a legendary creature card and put it into our hand. This can be used to find the Kona, or if we already have the Kona, we can grab up one of our finishers. This spacecraft has the station ability, meaning we can tap a untapped creature we control and then put charge counters on the spacecraft equal to the tapped creature's power. And then once we've tapped 7 or more power worth of creatures over the course of any number of turns, it turns into a flying 5/5 creature and states that other tapped legendary creatures we control have indestructible, so it gives them a bit of protection. The other 3 mana card we have in the deck is the Formidable Speaker. This is a 2/4 elf, and when it enters, we get to discard a card. And if we do, we can search our library for a creature card, reveal it, and put it in our hand, meaning we can tutor up the Kona or one of our finishers. Then when it comes to the cards we want to put in off of Kona, our primary target is going to be Omniscience. This is a 10 mana enchantment. It says we can cast spells from our hand without paying their mana cost. So once this is in play, we're able to play things like the Sarima and the Formidable Speaker to tutor up some of our other finishers, or we can just play out a wide board if we don't have them in hand yet. Then the 2 finishers that we're looking to tutor up are Emrakul the Aeon's Torn. This is a 15 mana legendary Eldrazi with 15 power and 15 toughness. When cast, it can't be countered, and we also get to take an extra turn. Then it has flying and protection from spells that are 1 or more colors, so targeted removal does not work on it. And additionally, it has Annihilator 6, meaning whenever we attack with it, the defending player has to sacrifice 6 permanents. Oftentimes, a single attack is enough to win the game. As a secondary ability, whenever Emrakul is put into a graveyard from anywhere, we get to shuffle our graveyard into our library, meaning if our opponent can somehow remove Emrakul from the board, it will just get shuffled back into our deck and we can tutor it up and try and replay it again later. And then the second finisher we're playing is Iona, Shield of Emeria. This is a 9 mana 7/7 with flying, and when it enters, we get to choose a color, and our opponents can't cast spells of the chosen color. Against the monocolored deck, this pretty much wins on the spot. and even in multicolored decks, you're usually able to shut down their primary color and win the game that way. Both of these finishers are legendary, so they're able to be tutored up with the Sarima. And then the last creature in the deck is Ouroboros. This is our backup win condition. It's a 4-mana 1/3 and states that at the beginning of combat on our turn, we get to put X 1/1 counters on each creature we control, where X is this creature's power. This will scale exponentially over time, and with our deck being a bunch of mana dorks and small ramp creatures, we could end up having a very large, very wide board very quickly. Ouroboros is another card that is considered a must answer when it hits the field, because after a turn or two, it ends up generating significant value. For the mana base, we are playing 4 copies of Adagia Windswept Bastion. This white land enters tapped and has the station ability, allowing us to tap down Kona. And while it's unlikely to occur, if we station 12, then for 4 mana, we can create a token that's a copy of target artifact or enchantment we control, which in this deck is just the Omniscience, so it's not a tremendously useful ability. We also have 3 copies of Evendo, Waking Heaven. This green land also enters tapped and has station, and a slightly better station ability at 12 counters. We get to add a green for each creature that we control, which does have the potential to be relevant in this deck for long drawn-out games. We're playing 4 copies of Prismatic Vista, which we can sacrifice and pay 1 life to search up a basic land card. We have 2 forests and 2 plains as our tutor targets for this. Then we're playing a single copy of Temple Garden, 4 copies of Razor Verge Thicket, and 4 copies of Hushwood Verge, which is a forest by default. And then if we control a forest or plains, we can also tap it for white mana. Looking at the deck, it does have the potential to be very strong. I know in other formats Kona dominates, so we'll see how that transitions over to Historic, which is slightly more powerful than your Alchemy or standard gameplay. Before we jump into the gameplay, I'd like to ask you to please like and subscribe the video. It really helps the channel. And without further ado, let's jump into the games. This hand is good. We'll keep. Turn 1, we'll get the Hierarch going. Turn 2, we'll likely play the Bastion so that we can use it to tap down Kona. Bit of a jank deck from our opponent. So we are going to play out the Bastion. We can attack for 1 as well. Exalted will make our creature a 1/2. If our opponent doesn't have any removal here or discard, then we should be able to win next turn. There is our 4th mana. I think with the Sarima, we search up Iona. Our opponent appears to be on a mono black deck. Now we do see red emerge. Red will still have trouble taking out the Iona. Need a lot of burn spells. Alright, looks like we have the victory here. We'll fetch up a forest. Play out our Kona. Then we can station. Put in the Omniscience. And then cast Iona on black. And then we can also station our Sarima. Don't know how it's pronounced. Our opponent has 6 power back on defense, so we can attack in with the Iona. No good blocks. We'll play out another land, and we might as well start stationing one of our lands. Can't adapt twice. And our opponent concedes. So it seems like our opponent might be on the newer side of Magic here, but we got the victory nonetheless. This hand is okay. We'll keep it. We'll start out on the Hierarch. Now with Badgermole Cub, we have a decision on turn 2, either to play out the Speaker and tutor right away for the Kona. Well, Kona off the top makes that decision easy. We'll play out our tap land, and then we can Earthbend. We have a Domain Zoo deck from our opponent. Just looking to dodge a board sweep right here, and I think we should have it locked up. Gaia's Blessing cycled. Let's see, we have enough mana to do everything, so we'll play out the Kona. Station it. Hit for 3. Put in Omniscience. Here we can name white, and then we'll tutor up our Emrakul, which should win the game. Just like we drew it up. This hand is very fair, but a double Badgermole Cub opening is extremely strong, so we'll keep. Could even potentially ramp out the Iona naturally. Here we'll just play out one of the Badgermole Cubs. Demir deck from our opponent, and they're on mill. With Emrakul in our deck, it's unlikely that we lose to a mill strategy, since it will just shuffle our entire graveyard back into our library if it is milled, so we're just hoping not to draw it here. I think it's too tempting to get Ouroboros out here. Play out one of the Cubs. Hit for 5. Without doing the math, I'm pretty sure we have lethal on board. Opponent needs a board wipe, Toxic Deluge. Bruvac won't do it. We can even hard cast Iona. I think we'll do that for fun. We'll name blue. We'll play out our Delighted Halfling as well. And then since this is not lethal, there's no need to attack. We can wait until next turn. Second orb, so this will be a good deal of mill. Emrakul will shuffle back in, and our opponent concedes. This hand is very fair. Has potential. We'll give it a try. We do need our Cub to survive. Opponent might have some removal here. And they do. That's fine. We get a Pilgrim. Going to be an enchantment deck from our opponent. Play out the cub. Here, I don't think we play out either of our spells. We don't want them to be removed on our opponent's turn. So now we'll try our spacecraft. That resolved very quickly. We'll grab Iona. Put in Kona. Station it. And then here we'll put in Omniscience. We can play Iona on white. And we also have Emrakul. We'll station our spacecraft. And this should be lethal. Good game. This hand is good. We'll keep. Start on the Temple Garden. Play out the Halfling. Next turn we can play out the Windswept Bastion and the Badgermole Cub, and that will set us up for a turn 3 Omniscience. Our Halfling does not survive. Here we can either play out the Badgermole Cub or the Pilgrim. I think we'll try for the Cub. That just forces our opponent to use another removal spell. Swift Spear, and they do have a 1-mana Ranger's Firebrand. So they'll hit for 2. We'll play out the Pilgrim and the Bastion. Hit for 1. We're not going to be blocking. More removal from our opponent, and they're focusing in on our creatures. A land off the top here would be great. Untapped land specifically. We don't find one. We'll search up the Iona. Our opponent is on a mono red deck. They'll need an instant speed removal that can deal 3 damage. Right. Unfortunately, we just didn't get the land here. So, nothing you can do about that. This hand is pretty good. We'll keep. Start off on the Thicket. Up against a Gate deck. Tutor up a Grazer. We only have 3 mana here, so we'll play out the Walking Haven tapped. No point in attacking. Guild Summit. They get to draw a card. So here we'll be able to put Emrakul in, and it will be very difficult for our opponent to win after that. We can even play out the Badgermole Cub. We'll station the Haven. And here we can put in Emrakul. Next turn we'll get to Annihilate 6, and that should pretty much wipe our opponent's board. They're not conceding yet. We also have lethal on board as well, so our opponent needs to keep their creatures when they sacrifice things. And they just concede. This hand is good. We'll keep it. Against a burn deck, I think we actually start off with our tapped land. If we run out the Pilgrim, it's likely to just eat removal. Here we have a second tap land. If our Pilgrim survives, we might actually run out the Ouroboros. No block. Didn't seem like our opponent had any reaction after their combat phase, so we're actually going to try for Kona here. This should be game over. We can tutor up Iona. Lock them out of casting spells. And then play out double Ouroboros. And we can station our spacecraft. And we'll pass the turn. Opponent has no good attacks. We'll take 2. Then if we attack with everything here, it should be lethal. Good game. This hand is missing too many components. We'll have to take a mulligan. This is better. And then I think we put back one of the hierarchs up against an elf deck. If we get Iona down early enough, it will be able to completely lock out their deck. No block. Here we'll just play out the Haven and pass. This is the last turn our opponent has to play anything. And it looks like that will not be enough for them to win the game. We can even play out the Badger Mole Cub here. We'll station. Then we put in Iona, name green. Then we can pass the turn. And our opponent concedes. This hand is good. A little bit slow. We'll start off with the Haven. Turn 2, we can either play the Hierarch or the Cub, depending if we draw an untapped land. We do find the plains. Based on that, I think we do play out the Cub. If we draw another untapped land next turn, we will be able to play Kona out and tap it, although we don't have an immediately good payoff. There is some removal. Sleight of Hand is typically played in the Phoenix decks. play out another Haven and another Cub. Likely a cantrip from our opponent. And it is an opt. They like their card. And then we will station using the same land as last time. More removal spells. And we do find the Omniscience. So there's no need to even play out the Hierarch here. We can just hit for 2 and pass, and the next turn we'll be able to put in Omniscience and tutor up Emrakul with the Speaker. Not many 1 mana instant spells that can deal 3 damage, so we'll run out Kona. Station with the same land again. They could bounce it. Brutally slow play from our opponent. If they have the answer, they just cast it right away. I don't know what's to think about. Just an opt, so this will be game over. Put in the Omniscience. Play the Speaker, discarding the Hierarch. And we can go grab the Emrakul. And that's game over. Alright, so there you have the deck. It felt very powerful, similar to how it dominates in Standard and Alchemy. Once Kona cheated in Omniscience, we were very reliably able to tutor up our Iona and Emrakul, or we already had them in hand, and both of them felt tremendously strong in finishing out games. Emrakul obviously causes a lot of problems for opposing decks, and similar with Iona, being able to completely lock them out from their primary color. We didn't have too many games where Ouroboros was a major contributing factor to winning. It'd be interesting to see if Ouroboros is actually needed in the deck. With 6 tutor abilities for Kona, we can probably pretty reliably play it on turn 3 or 4 and could fill those slots either with more mana dorks or some form of interaction for our opponents, such as removal or a protection spell we can use to protect Kona if we had 5 mana when we played it out, which is not unreasonable with this deck. For the top end, I don't think you need anything in addition to the Iona and Emrakul. Between the two of them, you're very reliably able to beat your opponents. Similar with the mana base, it felt pretty strong. Potentially, you could swap out one of the Windswept Bastions for another Waking Haven to try and get a bit more green mana in the deck, as it is primarily a green deck. I would definitely recommend you give this deck a try and let me know how it felt when you played it. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content.